Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, All About the Goddess. The Goddess Next Door bears all in the art studio to catch a campus stalker in this action-packed Isis series mystery. Get your copy of Isis, All About the Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about alphabet icon Divine. Now, Divine was a legendary actor, singer, and drag queen, and was known for working in multiple John Waters films that went on to become cult classics such as Pink Flamingos and Hairspray. And Divine was one of the biggest celebrities as related to the alphabet community for decades, and eventually was getting on the road to becoming a mainstream star back in 1988, and sadly was not able to live to see himself rise to fame, because sadly he wound up passing away on March 7th of 1988 of a heart attack brought on by his obesity. Now, before Divine was a star, he was actually born Harris Glenn Milstead in October of 1945, and was the son of two middle-class parents who basically worked their way through a struggle up to become a part of the middle class, with his father basically being a guy, Harris Bernard Milstead, who basically was a guy who again worked to again up his way up the middle class, and a mother who was someone who worked struggled as related to life. Eventually, as they wound up getting jobs at a Black & Decker factory in Townsend, eventually Harris Milstead eventually wound up not being able to be drafted into World War II, and as they had middle class jobs, they basically built a family where they had their first son, Harris Glenn Milstead. And Harris Glenn Milstead came from a socially conservative family, but as this only child grew up in that family, he was basically, like many baby boomers, spoiled by his parents, who basically got him everything, including food. And this is what led to him starting the issue that he had with his weight as related to obesity. And as he was dealing with this obesity, he was going out and dealing with the issues as related to homosexuality, because he himself basically was again effeminate and attracted to both men and women. And as he was out here, he was dealing with these issues, and as he was dealing with these issues, he eventually wound up meeting director John Waters as a teenager, and eventually both of these men became close friends. And as they became close friends, they wound up working together, as Harris Milstead was basically working at a job first at a florist shop, and then started working in his parents' daycare business, and then also went out here and then started to attend beauty school, where he eventually became a hairstylist. And as he became a hairstylist, this is where he started to further dress up in drag, going out here and putting on different dresses and outfits, and again dressing in drag like his favorite celebrity, Elizabeth Taylor. But as he was working on as a hairdresser, he eventually looked to start a business, and he started a business where he got stuff from thrift stores. And while that didn't work out, he still continued to go on living with his parents. And as he was living with his parents and starting to hang out in the counterculture, this is where he started working with his friend John Waters, who was again an alphabet gay man. And this gay man basically wanted to go out here and make the trashiest films, and make these trashy films which had their own unique style, as related to things. And as he was working with John Waters, this is where he got out here and got with Glenn Milstead, who became Divine, who he said was the most beautiful woman in the world, almost, because Divine wasn't a woman, Divine was a man. And as they were coming together, they started working on these extremely trashy motion pictures. These trashy motion pictures, which started with short films like Hag in a Black Leather Jacket and Roman Candles, a film that was inspired by Andy Warhol's Chelsea Girls. And as he continued to go on with these early films, eventually he did an iconic film called Eat Your Makeup, which was about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and played a character who basically was fantasizing about being Jackie Kennedy. And that was the start of him working with John Waters as related to his career. And eventually, this is where he moved, in 1968, moved out of his parents' home and rented his own furnished apartment. And this is where he wound up selling all the items in that furnished apartment, eventually in a story as related to him starting his own business. But as he continued to work with John Waters on films like the Diane Linkletter story, which was inspired by the true story of Diane Linkletter, who was the daughter of Art Linkletter, who committed suicide earlier that year. This is where they made their own adaptation. And again, while the film was controversial, it really was not publicly released because of the legal reasons as related to the slandering of Diane Linkletter. So after this is where he made the iconic film with John Waters known as Mondo Trasho. And this Mondo Trasho movie was supposed to be about a blonde woman who drives around town and runs over a hitchhiker. And basically, this is the film that started to get some attention for Divine. But as she could, was open up the store in 1970, it didn't really do very well, and she wound up selling all the furniture in her apartment that was furnished. And eventually, she continued to go on working. He continued to go on working on other John Waters films like Multiple Maniacs, and eventually starred in the iconic film Pink Flamingos. The film Pink Flamingos, where the Divine is playing a character who basically is known for being the filthiest person alive and going out here and eating dog feces. This is what the character is known for. And again, known for because this was, again, what's considered to be the signature role for Divine that basically made him a star as related to the cult films, and eventually started doing more cult films with John Waters, like the film Female Trouble, and then went on to do films and start making records like Polyester. And then later on after working with John Waters for an extended period of time, eventually started to work with other performers because what he wanted to do was be seen as a character actor and a supporting actor. This is what Glenn Milstead wanted to be seen as Divine. He wanted to, again, try to diversify himself and diversify his range. And this is where he started to work with other performers in the 80s and worked with a director on a film called Lust in the Dust, which got him, again, this was a film that he did that was not directed by John Waters. It's up on Tubi right now. And basically he wanted to, again, expand his range. And as he wanted to expand his range, he then looked to develop further into doing different roles. And eventually, this is where he wound up getting back with John Waters for the iconic 1980s film Hairspray. Now, Hairspray was made in 1988. I remember seeing it on Fox, and it was, again, a film that was supposed to be about a pleasantly plump teenager, Tracy Turnbald, who was played by Ricky Lake, and her mother was played by Divine, and as played by Divine, this was a film that made a commentary on race and racial segregation and featured an interracial relationship. And this film was known for its kitschy style and it was a fun film. It was a fun film, and Divine's performance was so good you couldn't even tell it was a man performing as a woman. This is what I remember from Hairspray, which was an iconic film. And it was an iconic film that was again a lot of fun to watch, and it was considered to be again another one of Divine's signature roles. I mean, I believe it's the role that basically is his definitive role as an actor, and one that showed his range as a performer, because it basically was again a fun film to watch. A fun film to watch that basically captured the spirit of John Waters' Kitschke style, Divine's unique, just fun way of performing, and gave us exposure to Ricki Lake and made her into a on the road to stardom, because that basically was her breakout role. And as Divine continued to go on, as related to trying to build up his career as a supporting player and a character actor, he then took roles in the film Out of the Dark, which was his final film role. And this was another film that wasn't directed by John Waters, his close friend. And he continued to make appearances on shows like David Letterman, Thick of the Night, which was Alan Thicke's talk show, and The Merv Griffin Show, as related to building up his publicity, and was starting to become a mainstream star, as he was featured on merchandise, featured on lots of merchandise, and there were portraits of him made by David Hockney and Andy Warhol, who basically showed how he was growing to become a part of mainstream culture. And just as Divine was starting to rise to become a top star in Hollywood, he eventually was slated to play Uncle Otto on the Fox sitcom Married with Children, and the second season wrap-up episode. He was basically on the road to breaking out and becoming a major mainstream alphabet star. He was basically getting ready to become a major star, but sadly what happened with Divine is that he wound up passing away at the age of 42 due to heart failure. Because what happened with him is that while the doctor said he was healthy, he was severely overweight, and he was encouraged to be overweight by John Waters and many others who just basically wanted to see him as this kind of plump drag queen. But sadly, he wasn't looking out for his health as related to his overall weight, and that basically put him on the road to winding up sadly passing away of a heart attack in his sleep at the age of 42. As related to heart failure, his heart just couldn't take that weight anymore. And sadly, what happened with Divine is while he was on his way to rise, he didn't be able to enjoy his accomplishments, didn't get a chance to enjoy his accomplishments as a performer, didn't get a chance to enjoy his chance to be that star that he could have been. Sadly, that's what happened, because he wound up again having this weight issue that they never really thought was a problem. Because a lot of people think, oh, a guy in his 40s, even though he's got weight, he can still live. But sometimes you just have to focus on your physical health. And sadly, because Divine or Harris Glenn Milstead didn't focus on his weight and his health, sadly, he was never able to just be able to see himself rise to become one of the greatest icons of the alphabet community, and rise to become one of the greatest performers of the alphabet community, and become that icon that he didn't get to enjoy the place he was in. And sadly, that's what happened to Divine, and that's what the viewer wanted me to talk about as related to this icon of alphabet culture. Now, this was a video requested by a viewer, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if I can find something out about that subject that you want me to discuss, I will make that video for you. Now, if you want to learn how guys like Divine wind up in situations where they don't take care of their health, you can pick up my books, The Man Crisis and other men's issues books, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find those books at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of The Goddess Next Door in this action-packed ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the beauty myth, at online booksellers everywhere today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.